Okay, guys, welcome to another Assassin's Creed Shadows video. Um, I want to go over something that a lot of people actually, look over when it comes to combat damage and doing their builds and stuff like that. So here's the thing, right? So we're gonna go into this mastery tree here, and I want to talk about something, which is the knowledge rank 8 bonuses. A lot of people overlook this stuff, right? But I'm gonna show you how powerful this is, right? As you can see here, damage with melee weapons. And here's the thing, in order to do so, you have to have at least 20 mastery points to max out your rank or whatever the case may be, right? So once you're able to do that, you're able to unlock, the max damage that you actually get on a global passive as far as the melee's weapons are concerned, right? So each mastery tree is, 20 mastery points each to actually max them out all the way. If you don't have enough mastery points to max them all out, that's fine. You just got to redistribute your mastery points wisely, when it comes to, making your builds effective. Currently, since I already beat the game and I got like damn near 400 plus hours in this, there's not really much else to do. I mean, New Game Plus couldn't come any faster because I know that you'll probably be able to build a lot more mastery points, because I would like to see what's actually possible when all this stuff is unlocked at the same time, right? I remember Ubisoft saying something about that they were going to restore those samurai daishos, respawn them in them castles, but what's yet to be determined is, whether or not they're going to give you mastery points after you kill them, right? So I think the current system was maybe 1 or 2 mastery points per daisho kill, right? So as you can see, another a rank here that we got, knowledge rank 8, is damage with tools plus 40%, which is actually pretty insane if you're doing like a tool hybrid build, or if you're using like tool bleed buildup at the same time in mid combat when you're fighting like multiple enemies. You could have like that bleed crit burst or whatever the case may be, plus 40% damage with tools, right? Plus, if you unlock in the knowledge rank 6 mastery tree, I think the kunai comes with 100% armor piercing and additional major damage on top of that, right? So as you can see here, armor piercing by 30%. Now, these damage bonuses don't make a super big difference, but it is noticeable, right? When it adds up to your build, and you could do some serious, damage with stuff like this, right? So increase damage with abilities by 30%, an extra 30%, right? So a lot of people ignore this on their builds. I see a lot of people doing builds on Assassin's Creed Shadows, and they're just focusing on the knowledge rank 6 and like the other mastery trees, but they don't never want to go to like what's happening here, right? Because this is going to make your builds so much more powerful. So me personally, I'm currently running a bleed and poison build. So you can see here, I have a damage with affliction, right? By 40%, right? I have damage with ability, an extra 30%. I have critical damage up to 60%, which is insane, right? Insane, 60%. Plus, I also have my Kusarigama, which deals an additional 80% damage with other skills that I currently have unlocked. But I'm gonna go over an example build. If you want to use this build or not, it's up to you, but I'm just showing you what's capable here. Critical damage by 60%. Increased damage when hitting vulnerable enemies by 30%. So on top of the vault that you're doing, which is 25%, you're adding 30%, vulnerable damage on top of that, right? Well, actually, the vault actually gives you critical chance, right? Not vulnerable damage, right? So affliction damage, 40+%, right? Which is insane. So my current build has 50% damage on poison enemies, right? So as you can see here, armor piercing, 30% damage with tools. Cooldown, 20% less cooldown with abilities, making them more spammable, right? So increased damage with melee weapons by 30%, right? Insane, right? Plus, you take a look at my regular loadout, how I got this. Lively Tanto of Malice, 15% critical damage per adrenaline chunk filled, right? Plus 50% damage from poison on enemies. So this is on top of, you know, the bonus ranks of knowledge rank 8, right? So trigger bleed on entanglement, right? The bloodletter. I actually took out the actual entanglement because I don't really need to inflict poison and bleed that way. I just kind of hit them with the shadow piercer, deal the poison, and then do the Kusarigama Cyclone, which deals a massive amount of damage at the same time. Now, this is not what I consider a one-shot build. This is more like a combo build, right? I like combo builds because with one-shot builds, sometimes I get bored, you know, just killing enemies in one shot. Although it is way more effective, right? You'll be able to clear castles a lot more effectively without dying. But I like combo builds because I like to have fun with my enemies, right? I like to have fun and, you know, taking my time and killing them and doing massive amounts of damage in a combo. So I wouldn't call this a one-shot build. I would call this more like a one-shot combo build, or should I say a one combo build? Because a lot of the enemies, they don't survive the full combo. They literally die within a fraction of your combo if you're able to, you know, do this correctly. And that's if all the buffs are active and the critical damage is active too, right? So, Kusarigama trigger bleed on entanglement, 25% damage from bleed on afflicted enemies, right? So as I'm doing both afflictions at the same time, so I got 50% damage on poison enemies, 25% damage from bleed on afflicted enemies, right? Plus the 30% affliction damage and a knowledge rank 8 bonus at the same time, right? So that's over 100% damage right there with those circumstances unlocked, right? That's if all of those circumstances are pretty much like, you know, active at the same time. Not all critical hits are going to happen all the time. So yeah, here's another thing I want to go over about combat. Hey, yo, 50% chance to refill tool on critical hits is way more insane than 50% chance to refill tool on a kill. When you're using 50% chance to refill tool on a kill, you want to use that for stealth builds only. If you're a melee guy like me, because, well, I'm versatile in most of the styles. I can do stealth, I can do melee, but I like melee a lot, right? But if you're a melee guy, this is the engraving that you want if you want to maximize your combo output. I'm going to tell you what I mean. When you're doing, right, 50% chance to refill tool on kill, what happens is you might only get a 1 refill tool per kill, right? And sometimes, depending on how the game is feeling, it may take you a while to actually get a tool back, right? You know, sometimes it may take me 30 minutes to get a tool back. Sometimes it'll give me tools every few seconds, every time I give you a kill. So it's very random. But when you're doing 50% chance to refill a tool on critical hits, let's say you do a Cyclone with the Kusarigama. You do a Cyclone with the Kusarigama, it deals like what, maybe 5 or 6 hits. And out of those loops, those critical hits, you might regain 5 tools back within 1 combo round while you're hitting multiple enemies. So by the time you refill and throw that shuriken or the kunai, you want to have about 5 or 6 refilled, in which you just had maybe 10 or 7. So in one loop, you could get way more tools and way more inventory to damn near regenerate and replenish your inventory to make it damn near infinite, right? So in my opinion, this is way more superior. 50% chance to refill tool on kill. You might want to use that mainly for stealth, right? But if you're dealing with combat, this is the way to go. And this adds, like I said, the 40% damage with tools, right? Off the knowledge rank 8 bonus. Boom. So as you can see here, this goes perfectly with this build. If you guys didn't watch my previous videos on how to farm gear, this is one of the chess pieces that I have in order to go good with this build. A better, more optimal build, which would be something with a bleed tool buildup, right? That also has critical damage, which is 38%, almost 40%. It's a little low on the vulnerable damage, but I'm okay with that because the critical damage makes up for it, right? So 38% critical damage plus 28% vulnerable damage, right? Plus the 30% vulnerable damage off the knowledge rank 8 bonus. Plus the 60% critical damage off the knowledge rank 8 bonus on top of critical damage off the chest piece, which is 38%. So I'm dealing almost 100% critical damage, right? Plus the Tanto, in ideal conditions, 15% critical damage per adrenaline chunk filled, right? This is doing some serious damage in a combo, guys, right? So I'm just showing you what's possible, right? Because once you understand the design of the game mechanics, right, the passives, how I also went over in another video how the same engravings don't stack. You know, if you want to learn more about how I get into depth with that, watch my previous video on my channel, which will show you exactly, you know, how I break that down. Also, another with the Shade Walker Hood, another 20% damage with afflictions on top of the 40% damage, extra afflictions with the knowledge rank 8 bonus, right? So yeah, now you can see here in the mastery tree, right? This is for the more advanced players, right? I don't have all of these passives here unlocked because I have to reinvest some of those mastery points back into the whatchamacallit, the knowledge rank 8 bonus, right? I don't know why I didn't have this. I didn't even realize, but hey. Anyway, dealing another 40%, 60% max damage, right? All together on Feral Outburst. Another thing I want to say about this is the Feral Outburst, right? When you're fighting, like I said, if you're a guy that you like fighting multiple groups of enemies like me, you don't want to use this technique, right? The Feral Frenzy technique, while you're dealing with multiple guys who shoot those fire arrows from the sky. The reason being is if you're in mid-combat, this technique actually puts you in an animation lock. And while they're calling down those arrows, you're not going to have no way of countering or actually canceling the animation to get out, right? So the most effective way to take them guys out, if you're doing straight up melee and just comboing guys left and right, is make sure you don't use that technique, right? Stick to the Cyclone, Volt Over, Shadow Piercer, Smoke Bomb, Sting like that, but don't use the Feral Frenzy until you take those guys out, right? That's just the extra little tip in there I just wanted to throw in because I've died a lot of times, you know, making that same mistake, right? So, and it's very, very sneaky when they do it because they'll wait for you to do it, and then all of a sudden you see like a red spot under you, and then boom, you know, you get killed, right? They hit you with those multiple arrows, especially if you're playing on expert mode, right? So I just wanted to make light of that. So a more ideal version of this build, which would be all of these skill trees maxed out, which I don't have the mastery points to do so because most of my mastery points aren't invested in knowledge rank 8 bonus, right? So, Cyclone Blast, as you can see here, does a total damage of 60%. Then you can see here 80% damage, right? With the max out mastery points totaling, maxing out the Kusarigama, right? So don't have Snake Bite, don't really need this. And Quick Strike, I don't really need this, right? To do the kind of damage that I'm going to do. So boom. Go back here. Tools, as you can see. 10% chance to refill tool on use. Kunai, 400% damage on unaware enemies. But this right here is the another powerful essential component of the build. But it's not just the build, but it's just how to create what I call a damage economy, right? So every damage aspect of a combo build is linked to other essential components, right? Because I'm going to show you how all this is done in a combat loop, right? So, Shuriken deals 100% damage. Staggers enemies, can be used in the environment. The next rank is increased by 10% damage. The next rank is 15% damage. So a total of 125% damage altogether. Right? Plus the 40% damage with tools. Right? Got the max increased damage by tools by 18% on top of the 40 in the knowledge rank 8. So kunai 1 shuriken, you know, these are like the upgrades that allow you to carry more tools. Right? I gotta have this all maxed out, so you want to get this all maxed out as well. Increase affliction build up with tools by 9%. Right? Larger tool bag, upgrade 3. One thing I noticed about chimes, they don't really work as well in expert mode. In normal mode, enemies are easily distracted. This is basically useless. Right? So I don't even know why I even have this, because this shit don't even work. And I could use this on other mastery points, you know, if I have to. But anyway, that being said, you want to have smoke bomb at max haze, widespread, right? And with the smoke bomb, you could kind of like, if you understand like how to build a good damage economy around builds like this, but not just builds like this, just builds, right? Understanding all the bonuses, all the ranks, right? Learning how to utilize everything that the skill tree has to offer with your characters. I specifically like using Naoe, so you will understand just how to put stuff together, right? As you see, the kunai, 50% armor piercing, right? On top of that, plus the 30% armor piercing from the knowledge rank 8 bonus, right? So you're going to see how I put this all together in a single combat loop to utilize all of these skill trees at once to try to maximize damage. And according to ChatGPT, you know, because hey, that's one of my secrets. I use ChatGPT to help, you know, give suggestions with builds, right? Using artificial intelligence with your intelligence equals superior intelligence, right? So according to ChatGPT, but it's not right all the time, but you know, if you do the math, if you do the combat loop that I'm getting ready to show you, it'll deal. And if all the buffs are active, the critical hits, everything, the afflictions and vulnerables all active, it literally deals over 1 million DPS. I'm not lying. Sounds crazy, right? But it's actually insane, right? But that's if all the buffs are active. And if they do survive the combo, it's because not all of the crits are hitting. And that's okay. But usually when you're on one of those runs where you're doing a combo on an enemy and they just get hit with those crits, I will tell you right now, they will not survive the full combo because it's just too much, right? So you also want to unlock the shuriken, which is, yeah, I already talked about this, bouncing between targets, but this is really ideal if you have like a tool bleed builder, right? So boom, Tanto. I don't have Leaf Strike only because although this will even increase the damage even way further, right? Another 60% damage on top of the Tanto, which would actually give you a max 80% ability damage. No, it would actually give you a total overall 80% damage if you unlock everything. But I could do without it because I'm dealing so much damage. Doesn't even matter. But at the same time, I don't really use Leap Strike that much because it's just awkward to me that replaces the entire dodge mechanic, right? So I'm not really a big fan of that, and it's just awkward, but it can be very effective if you could get used to dodging without holding down R2 as much, right? Me personally, I need R2 and circle like freed up, right? Because I can move in ways that gives me a lot more freedom and flexibility, and I can move with a lot of speed and while dealing with multiple enemies at once, right? I think like with Leaf Strike, that kind of slows me down when I do it. And it locks you into like a single opponent. But there's people out there that could really use, like, they know how to use Leaf Strike and Escape Strike and Blood Rush. I'm just not fans of them, me personally, right? So, but the ideal max damage build for those who want to use this, you will want to max this out, get that 80% plus on top of that, right? So, Shadow Barrage here, don't really need to use it. This could go along with another build that I got going on that deals with dealing massive damage upon dodging, right? So, yeah, Backstab, light posture attacks that hit an enemy's back trigger weak points. You want that. 100% armor piercing. On top of all the armor piercing bonuses that I just mentioned, on top of another. You see how all of this is coming together? This is what I call a damage economy, right? That's my term for it. Weak point attacks trigger from behind. Give you health restoration of 5%. You don't really need that, but I just got it up there anyway. But I really don't need it, to be honest. But up there. So, and of course you got Assassin, Eagle Vision, all this stuff unlocked. If you really want to go crazy, you want to get Heightened Senses in the Shinobi. That actually takes another health segment of assassination, because what I like to do is I like to juggle vulnerable damage, critical damage, regular damage, melee damage, and assassination damage in one combo loop. That's what I call all-around damage economy. Makes you very dangerous, right? If you know what you're doing, right? Well, like I said, I feel like one-shot builds are more powerful than stuff like this because you don't have to deal with as much enemies. But builds like this, for me, are just more fun, right? Because I like the dice, slice and dice enemies up, left and right, right? So here, increase damage on vulnerable enemies by 12%. Executioner, Nightcrawler, increase damage during the night by 12%. And then increase damage while health is full by 12% on top of the knowledge rank 8 bonuses that you have, right? So yeah, I got all this stuff unlocked. Ground Assassinate, Double Assassinate, right? Rush Assassinate removes 1 health segment, I believe, right? Hidden Blade, you want to need this. This is actually essential, which I use for the Tanto, which is the Broken Spirit, right? So this, I actually like to use this a lot when dealing with a lot of enemies and comboing and doing a constant melee attacks, because it allows you to kind of one-shot those annoying enemies, those guys who shoot the fire arrows, the guys who shoot the arrows, and the riflemen, right? And if you take a look at my last video in combat tips, like the encounters in expert mode as you progress through the game break down in 3 different components. The most dangerous enemies are ranged enemies, right? Ranged enemies plus the guardians who have the shotgun. Why? Those guys throw bombs. Their shotgun blasts are really powerful, right? And they can kill you faster than anyone else. So anybody who has a rifle, anybody who has a arrow, because they're hitting you from far away while you're getting distracted by the other enemies you have to deal with, right? That's why I think they're very dangerous, because they can kill you no matter how good you are, right? So you want to get to them first, and the fastest way that I like to get rid of them is using the Broken Spirit, right? Because it's just a straight up assassination and they can't block it, right? And it takes 2 health segments. So again, you're doing all this critical, vulnerable melee damage, and you're doing assassination damage at the same time. That's why I like the power of the knowledge rank 8 bonus, right? So here, the Katana, I had uninvested all those mastery points out of there to reinvest in the knowledge rank 8 bonuses to kind of like buff this build to the max, right? But I have other builds dealing with the Katana too. I have a Katana version of this build that's also ridiculously powerful, right? So I'll go over that maybe in another video. I'll talk about that, but not in this one, right? So I kind of like went over all of this. Did I go over the Shinobi? Yeah, I think I did, right? So like I said, some of this stuff, I don't really need it, right? Because since I'm not using the Katana, I don't need the Vault anyway. So, Heightened Senses, yeah, I could definitely use this, right? Slows down. Yep, I would need more mastery points to even get it to the rank I needed to actually activate that extra health segment on top of all the damage that I'm doing. Right, because what I like to do is, as I'm doing this mid combo, what I like to do is throw smoke bombs. And when you throw smoke bombs, it triggers the assassination prompt. And it really depends, right? Because you have to, in order to like really trigger that, you either have to break the line of sight. I tried to use the Robes of the Enraged, which turns you invisible after 2 seconds of crouching, but that didn't really work well, right? It doesn't work while you're actually in mid-combat. So you really have to be completely out of sight, but it doesn't work that well in mid-combat, throwing smoke bombs and automatically triggering those assassination prompts. It happens maybe about 30% of each encounter, which it's all right. So I rather just throw the smoke bombs and hit them with massive amounts of tools, preferably if they had tool bleed build up with burst damage, right? But if you know how to if you utilize the combat loop I'm talking about, and you utilize all these components, you're actually implementing all these aspects of damage at the same time, which is very deadly. Very deadly. Like, this shit ain't no joke, right? So, get some of this stuff here. Increase abilities, damage by 9%. Increase damage after a volt by 12%. And 15% less cooldown with abilities on top of the knowledge rank 8 bonus, which I believe has a 20-something% less cooldown. So you're maxing at almost 40% less cooldown with abilities, making this build almost spammable with all the combo loop I'm gonna show you, right? So I'm gonna go over inventory one more time. As you can see, so much damage being implemented here. 600% affliction buildup. That way, well, it's actually 6% affliction buildup, because according to Ubisoft, they nerfed the one that had 600% affliction buildup on posture attacks, right? But it was really 6%. So I guess it's some kind of a graphical interface error, and it's really supposed to be 6%. But whatever, right? The reason why I like to have this particular engraving is that it allows you to do multiple burst damage shots in one round in a combo loop when you're doing the bleed build, right? So when you're doing Cyclone, you're going to get that burst damage at max multiple times in one round, right? If you take this out, it's going to take a little longer to get to that burst damage climax, right? And another reason why I like to have 20% poison affliction duration is that it gives you time to implement the bleed affliction at the same time, right? So it gives you time to follow up with 2 afflictions, plus layering all the damage aspects that I just explained at the same time, right? So I'm going to go over a combo loop. Here's the combo loop. You start off with Tanto, right? Shadow Piercer, right? So I'm going to go find some enemies, right? Because I have to go. This is perfect guy, right? Boom, watch this. Build that poison. Switch. Jump over. Bolt. Throw Outburst, right? Now I'm switching the tools as this happened. He's dead. He didn't even survive. Implementing all those damage aspects at the same time, right? sometimes all the critical hits don't land, and that's okay. But most of the time, if most of the buffs are active, those guys will not survive full combo, right? So, and if you really want to get nasty, you use the assassination damage aspect, take them out much faster, plus follow up with an ability finisher. Now the true test begins right here, right? Because this is one of the most dangerous areas in Kameyama Castle. Why? Because this guy right here, right? And then there's like 2 of those explosive arrow guys that you have to watch out for. Right? Boom. Oh, here you go. I started off great. This is what I like to do, right? This is why I have this build a certain way, right? You also want to use ally abilities, right? So as I'm doing this, right? Now Katsuhime is going to come in there, fuck shit up. Whoop. On my way. Another thing about combating multiple enemies is recovery frames, right? When you understand recovery frames, it allows you to avoid damage a lot easier. And my tools are actually refilling up, right? As you can see here, boom. This is overkill at this point. Him? This is why I like to use Broken Spirit, right? Don't like to take too much time on him. Because while you're dealing with him, there's going to be other people shooting. Specifically when dealing with Kameyama Castle, there are 2 main areas that are most dangerous, right? Which is that area that I just came from, and this area I'm getting ready to go to now. Whoa, you ain't gonna get me. This guy is one of the most dangerous enemies there is, right? You gotta take him out as fast as you can. No mercy. Whoop, almost got killed there. Whoop. Boom. See that? Most dangerous enemy is you. I'll just... You ain't getting back up out that water. So... Okay, that's the first dangerous area. The one that I just left from up top over there. And this is the second one. That area to the far left is the most dangerous area because them guys are gang up on it. But I'm going to show you guys how to deal with them, right? With this build. Oh, shit. Notice, got my tools back, right? 3 of them on crit. Got him back again. 5. See? See how fast they refill? Now imagine how powerful this would be with tool bleed buildup and burst damage too, which is the ideal version of this build. Whoop. And if you use the ally ability with Katsuhime, it's almost a triple affliction build, right? Because I can utilize all three builds at the same time. I mean, utilize all three afflictions at the same time. See how I went from Daze, Poison to Bleed all at once? Not exactly at the same time, but back to back. Very powerful when you utilize it correctly. Right? The combat loop. I hate when that shit does that. That's like a bug that this shit got. Sometimes the Shadow Piercer doesn't do what I want it to do, which is still die. Try to block and you die like an idiot. This area is the most dangerous. I'm telling you. Like, you see how they came after me? If I didn't stick to this little quarter here to like kind of narrow them all in, forget it. It'd have been over. Boom, combo loop. See how I affected that combo loop? Implementing as much damage of all the damage aspects at the same time. This is extremely powerful, man. And it's fun. It's fun. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. I'll definitely try to do some more and upload a little bit more consistently. I'm out.